In 1513, a Turkish admiral created a map that should never have existed. A map so precise, so detailed, that it depicts an entire continent exactly as it appeared thousands of years before any human being could even dream of reaching it. And the most disturbing part? That continent is Antarctica, shown without the ice that has covered it for millions of years. How is that possible? Who really drew this map, and what else is being hidden from us about the true past of humanity? If you're enjoying this content and want to uncover more mysteries that official history tries to keep buried, consider subscribing to the channel and activating the notification bell. Let's walk this path toward the truth together. Now let me tell you this story from the beginning, because it goes far deeper and it's far more unsettling than you might imagine. The year is 1513, at the height of the Ottoman Empire, one of the greatest naval powers of its time. Constantinople, known today as Istanbul, was a thriving center of knowledge, trade, and power. Living there was a man named Piri Reis, a respected admiral, a gifted cartographer, and the nephew of one of the most feared corsairs of the Mediterranean. Piri Reis was not just a military man. He was an obsessive collector of ancient maps, a scholar who searched libraries, markets, and captured ships for any fragment of geographical knowledge he could find. For years, Piri Reis gathered dozens, perhaps hundreds, of maps from different origins. Some came from Venetian navigators, others from Arab explorers, and some even from ancient Greek sources. He studied every line, every detail, comparing information, looking for patterns, striving to assemble the most complete and accurate map of the known world. And it was through this meticulous, almost obsessive process that he created something extraordinary, something that would defy logic and reason for centuries. The map Piri Reis drew in 1513 was not just another cartographic document. It was a masterpiece of precision, depicting the Atlantic coastline with astonishing detail. But there was something on that map that simply made no sense. Something that, when discovered centuries later, would cause scientists, historians, and researchers around the world to stop and ask a single chilling question. How is this possible? On the southern portion of the map, clearly drawn and carefully detailed, appeared the coastline of Antarctica. But not Antarctica as we know it today, buried under kilometers of ice and snow, a frozen, uninhabitable wasteland. No. The Antarctica shown on Piri Reis's map displayed mountains, valleys, rivers, and a clearly defined coastline, as if the continent were completely free of ice. As if someone had been there, walked that land, mapped every bay and every mountain, at a time when Antarctica was green and habitable. Now you might be thinking, perhaps it's just a mistake, a misinterpretation, an artistic coincidence. But let me share a few facts that will make you rethink that assumption. First, Antarctica was officially discovered only in 1820, more than 300 years after Piri Reis drew his map. The first explorers to see the continent were stunned by its vast ice sheets and hostile environment. It took decades for expeditions to map even a small fraction of its coastline, and they did so using technology far more advanced than anything available in 1513. Second, the first time humanity was able to map the true shape of Antarctica beneath the ice was in 1949, using sonar and radar technology. And when scientists compared those modern maps with Piri Reis's drawing, they were shocked. The coastlines, mountain formations, and geographical contours matched with an accuracy that was deeply unsettling. How could a man in the 16th century have drawn something that would not be confirmed until more than 400 years later, using technology he couldn't even have imagined? Third, and perhaps most disturbing of all, according to mainstream science, Antarctica has been covered in ice for millions of years. The last time the continent may have been largely ice-free was around 6,000 years ago, possibly even earlier. But at that time, according to everything we've been taught, humanity was only beginning to build its first civilizations in Mesopotamia and Egypt. There was no advanced oceanic navigation, no technology capable of crossing the violent southern seas, let alone mapping an entire continent with mathematical precision. So how does this map exist? The only explanation Piri Reis himself offered, written in notes on the map, was that he used more than 20 ancient maps as sources. Maps that, according to him, dated back to the time of Alexander the Great, and even earlier. He specifically mentioned that some of these maps were captured from Spanish and Portuguese ships, which may themselves have found documents in the newly discovered Americas or other distant lands. But this only deepens the mystery. Where did those original maps come from? Who drew them? And how did they possess knowledge of a continent that was supposedly inaccessible and unknown? Let's think about this more deeply. If Antarctica was mapped without ice, that means someone was there before the continent was covered by its massive ice sheet. We're talking about a time before recorded history, before the first civilizations we know of, before everything we've been taught about the evolution of human society. Who were these people? What kind of technology did they possess to navigate the oceans, cross dangerous seas, and map an entire continent with such precision? Some researchers suggest that an advanced civilization may have existed, perhaps far more advanced than we imagine, and that it was erased from history by a global cataclysm. Perhaps the end of the last ice age, which brought massive flooding as glaciers melted, along with earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and extreme climate shifts, destroyed this civilization. Maybe only fragments survived, a few artifacts, a handful of maps, scattered legends, passed down through generations until they eventually reached cartographers like Piri Reis. And it's not just the Piri Reis map that suggests this. Other ancient maps showed geographical details that should not have been known at the time. The Orontius Phineus map from 1531 also depicts Antarctica, placing it at the center of the document, with mountains and rivers clearly illustrated. The map by Philippe Boich from 1737 shows Antarctica divided into two large landmasses separated by a channel of water, something that was only confirmed in the 20th century, when scientists discovered that beneath the ice, Antarctica is indeed split by a massive geological depression. How did these cartographers know this? Mainstream science attempts to explain these maps as coincidences, misinterpretations, or artistic additions with no factual basis. But the more closely you examine the details, the harder it becomes to accept those explanations. The precision is too great. The details are too specific. The correlations with real geography are too accurate to be dismissed as mere chance. And here is the question no one wants to answer. If an advanced civilization truly existed before recorded history, why isn't there more evidence? Where are the cities, the monuments, the artifacts? The answer may lie in the scale of the catastrophe that destroyed them. Imagine an event so devastating that almost nothing survived. Massive floods swallowing coastlines, earthquakes leveling cities, volcanic ash burying entire regions, ice sheets advancing and retreating. Everything they built could have been erased, submerged beneath oceans, buried under ice, or simply lost to time. But some knowledge survived. Maps like the one created by Piri Reis are proof of that. They are fragments of a much larger puzzle. Clues that human history is far more complex and mysterious than we were taught. And if this is true, what else is being hidden? What other truths about our past were erased, forgotten, or deliberately suppressed? Think about this for a moment. The history we're taught is a clean, linear narrative with a clear beginning, middle, and end. We start as hunter-gatherers, develop agriculture, build the first cities, create empires, and eventually arrive at the modern age. But what if that story is incomplete? What if entire chapters were lost or ignored? What if entire civilizations rose and fell before we ever began writing history? The map of Piri Reis is not just a historical artifact. It is a direct challenge to our understanding of the past. It is tangible evidence that something is wrong, or at least incomplete, in the official story. And that raises profound and unsettling questions about who we really are, where we came from, and what we've lost along the way. Imagine what must have gone through Piri Reis's mind as he compiled that map. Did he realize the magnitude of what he held? Did he understand that he was preserving knowledge from a lost age, from a forgotten civilization? Or was it simply another cartographic project to him, assembling the best available information to create the most accurate map possible? Unfortunately, we don't know. Piri Reis left few notes about his sources, and much of what we know about him comes from fragmented historical records. We know he continued his naval career, took part in battles, wrote a book on navigation called Kitabi Bahriye, and was eventually executed in 1553 for political reasons. But the map he created in 1513 survived, hidden for centuries in imperial archives, until it was rediscovered in 1929 at the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. When the map was rediscovered, it didn't cause much excitement at first. It was seen as a historical curiosity, a beautiful example of Ottoman cartography. But as more researchers began to study it, especially after World War II, when aerial and sonar mapping technologies advanced, the true magnitude of the mystery began to emerge. And ever since, the Piri Reis map has been the subject of intense debate, controversial theories, and deep questioning about what we truly know about our past. So, what does all of this mean? It means we must be humble enough to admit that we don't know everything. It means human history may be far richer, more complex, and more mysterious than we imagine. It means that perhaps, just perhaps, civilizations existed before us that reached levels of knowledge and technology we have underestimated or simply cannot comprehend with the limited evidence we currently possess. And most importantly, it means we must continue to question, investigate, and seek the truth, even when it challenges everything we've been taught. Because that is how humanity moves forward, not by accepting ready-made answers, but by asking difficult questions and having the courage to follow the evidence wherever it leads. The map of Piri Reis is a reminder that the past holds secrets we have yet to uncover, and who knows how many other maps, artifacts, and pieces of knowledge are still waiting to be discovered, ready to rewrite everything we thought we knew about who we are and where we came from. So what do you think? Did Piri Reis have access to knowledge from a lost civilization? Was there a golden age of humanity before recorded history, erased by a global cataclysm? Or is there another explanation we haven't yet considered? Leave your theory in the comments. And if you found this story as fascinating as I did, share this video with someone who also questions the official version of history. The truth is out there, waiting to be discovered.